Welcome back to our AI in Action Building with Copilot Studio series. With adaptive cards, you're able to add snippets of content to Copilot Studio agents that can openly be exchanged with other cloud apps and services. These content snippets provide rich conversation capabilities that include text, graphics, and buttons, all as a JSON representation. You can use this interactively to gather responses from users or to display relevant information. In this video, I'll show you how to use adaptive cards inside of your Copilot Studio topics to demonstrate both of these examples. This is the Book a Salon Appointments topic created in the previous two episodes of the series. In the author topics using natural language episode, we created the base topic that upon a user's appointment request, it asks for a name, email, service type, date and time of the booking, and then it simply displays all the user information back to the user. In the extend topics using Cloud Flows episode, we expanded this topic to include a Power Automate action that saves the user's appointment information into Dataverse. Now we will be seeing how to incorporate adaptive cards into a topic to make it more interactive. But for that, I'll be creating a new topic and leaving this one intact. To save a bit of time, I'll click More and then select Open Code Editor. This will open the YAML representation of the topic where I can copy the trigger code. Then I'll close the editor. I'll now go back to all topics. Then I'll toggle this button to disable the topic. This makes it so that it can no longer be triggered by a user. I'll now add a topic from blank. This opens an empty topic. I'll then open the code editor and paste in the code from before. And upon closing the code editor, we now have the same set of trigger phrases. I'll rename this topic to Book a Salon Appointment AC, where AC stands for Adaptive Card. With that set up, I'll add Node and then select Ask with Adaptive Card. An empty adaptive card is then added to the topic. Let's click into it to access its properties. Here, we can expand the editor to edit the JSON representation of that card. But we will come back to that. For now, I'll select Open Adaptive Card Designer, which opens a platform that allows us to freely design adaptive cards before we use them. Here, we can edit the JSON if you're comfortable with that, or you can drag and drop card elements as you see fit. Right now, I'll select New Card to create an empty adaptive card. And you'll see that we have a lot of samples to choose from. However, we will create a blank card to create it from scratch. First thing is that we'll set the target version to 5.1 because that's the highest Copilot Studio supports at the time of this recording. So the first thing I'll do is add a text block for the title. This now adds this JSON to the editor as well, which we can edit. I'll then change the text to Book Your Salon Appointment, add a size and weight property, as well as a horizontal alignment property. As I'm making changes in the JSON, the preview will show me what these changes look like. I'll now add a subtitle by adding a comma and pasting in this code after the title. Okay, so now we need fields to gather all the information from the user. On the left, we can see a bunch of inputs. So let's drag an input.text element, which is like a text box. And again, we can edit the JSON to add a label and ID. We can also make this a required field to force the user to enter a value. And because it's required, we need an accompanying error message. Finally, let's edit the placeholder text to be more appropriate. With that out the way, I'll paste in another text element for email, which is very similar to name. The next item we need from the user is service, and as we know, this has options. The choice set element is most appropriate, and to that we'll add an ID and label. Make it a required field, and then have an error message. I'll then paste in our choices, which are hair, manicure, massage, and facial, and then edit the placeholder. The rest will be pretty much standard from this point, with a text element for the hairstyle and a date element followed by a time element for the appointment date and time, respectively. And then at the very end, I'll add this action.submit element, which will be the submit button. With that, this is how the final card looks like. Once done, we can copy the JSON, return to Copilot Studio, expand the Properties tab, and paste in the copied JSON. Click X, and you'll then see a representation of the card in the topic, as well as variables which have been automatically created based on the card schema. The next thing to do is call the Power Automate action to save the user information into Dataverse. And then we'll configure the parameters as needed. Once done, just as with the previous topic, we'll add a summary message by clicking Add Node and selecting Send a Message. On the Message node, click on Add and then select Adaptive Card. When the adaptive card appears, select it and expand the card contents. Once expanded, change the Edit JSON button to Edit Formula. This will allow us to use power effects within our adaptive cards. I'll paste in this formula, which has a text block thanking the user for the information. Then there's a list of details that was retrieved from the user, followed by a friendly message saying see you soon. Now we can add the remaining power effects formulas. For name, it will be topic.nameVal, which is the name of the variable storing the name retrieved from the user in the previous adaptive card. We then do the same for email, service, and hairstyle. For date and time, since we're primarily working with strings, we can add the following formula to convert both date and time values to strings and then concatenate them. Once done, exit the adaptive card properties, add the end of conversation system topic, save the topic, and then test. First ask for an appointment, and then when the adaptive card shows up, interact with it to fill it in, then click Submit. The flow should run to save the information to Dataverse, and then the summary adaptive card will show. And that brings this video to an end. As always, there is so much more that you can do with these adaptive card capabilities. Check out the resources in the description below to find out more. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Microsoft Power Platform YouTube channel to receive a notification of our next episode in our AI in Action Building with Copilot Studio series.